Let's go back a few thousand years to the time when Zeus ruled the earth. Now, there were millions of people in multiple civilizations who believed in Zeus, or Jupiter as he was renamed by the Romans. And it always seemed strange to me that so many people would have the same ideas, the same stories about this god if there was not something real about it, something that actually happened to initiate and maintain this long-held belief system. Modern scholars write about Zeus as if he was just a story or told tale developed into what we now call mythology. But they are just guessing. They don't really know who or what started it all, who or what the god Zeus actually was. Scholars honestly have no idea. They don't know the backstory. Even worse, they are afraid to ask the right questions.
This light robe that he's got on, this exalting type of like big position that he's in, yelling and really yelling very loudly, conveying this huge message to these people in these masses of people that are below.
So we at Farsight decided to start looking into these gods that look and act like us. The only real godlike aspect of them is that they seem to have superpowers. In Zeus's case, he had a thunderbolt, or what the people of that time thought of as a lightning bolt that shot out from his flying chariot. And then he was supposed to live in some grand palace that was high up, say Mount Olympus. And he was supposed to have punished humanity when humanity sinned, with the punishment being as punishing and deadly as it could be.
Okay, this energy feels very vast and large and powerful. The energy does feel like it kind of starts at the bottom and works its way up, and as it comes up through the structure, you know, it gains momentum and it gains power, and you know, kind of feels like everything's rising up and then it kind of explodes out the top.
During this target event, there was a large amount of change with energy or energetics, like an explosion or a burst of energy.
Here at Farsight, we have been trying to piece together the most complicated puzzle ever known to mankind, our history. We have found that modern-day scholars are paralyzed by their fears of losing their reputations by asking the most obvious questions. Any question involving extraterrestrials is simply forbidden. Can't talk about it, can't even think about it. It is almost a psychotic condition that defies explanation, and the major media on this planet seems equally affected, as if the news people caught the same contagious virus, a virus that decides for us what ideas we are allowed to hold or even consider.
Yellow projectiles just shooting up at this thing, and this thing sort of dropping these plumes of explosive stuff that sort of just eviscerates large parts of this urban area all in like one go. I mean, it sort of just like wipes out this area, then wipes out that area.
And then this structure, it has tall ceilings. Very classic look. It makes me feel like a mansion, but it has an older feel to it. It seems like a very antique house or mansion. The primary target subject inside the structure is really tall, slim. He wears slim fit clothing, blue or black colors. Slim face, very pointy nose, very straight face. This guy is not at all that nice.
There are 4 targets for this project. The first is Zeus at the peak of his power, firing his thunderbolt. Now, the thunderbolt is all over the Zeus legends, so we really need to see what that is all about. The second target is Zeus in his home, where he lived during the time when he had his strongest influence on Earth. Now, they say he lived atop Mount Olympus. Well, let's see where he actually lived. The third target is Zeus's most destructive attack on Earth. Now, legends have it that he kicked serious butt in some of his attacks. It is good to see what that is all about.
I see a large object coming towards the ground. Large objects soaring down the buildings. Going between all the demolished buildings that have already been destroyed. Lots of smoke, burning smells. There's no roof on some buildings. Things are just being blown apart.
The ancient Greeks and Romans were not imagining things. Zeus was real, and it looks like he ran the show on Earth, demanding obedience and worship. He presented himself as a god who has unimaginable power. He could fly a spaceship that the masses interpreted as a chariot that raced across the sky. And his spaceship had energy weapons that the masses interpreted as thunderbolts.
I'm noticing energy being forced upon these subjects below on the base surface as well from these non-surface structures.
And the final target is Zeus having sex with an Earth female in a typical encounter for such things. Zeus's legends are filled with him having romantic exploits, and it only makes sense to find out why such exploits are so often referenced with regard to his activities.
I don't know what happens to the family. The family is left. I don't know how they leave. They're gone. Next thing I know is there's this little girl on her knees, absolutely terrified of this guy who came down from the non-surface structure to be in this rickety middle of nowhere structure that looks like an ancient poor place that's out in the middle of nowhere with just a few other structures around, like way in the distance.
But it's uncomfortable, so I'm leaving. Don't like this. The guy's a jerk. I don't know what he's doing to this other person. I don't even want to be in his mind to figure out what he's doing to the other person. I just know it ain't right. It isn't. It's a problem. There's a problem here. There's a whole problem here. I don't like it.
It feels like he gets like thorough enjoyment out of touching her. I just feel all this tension like build up inside of him, like it's like everything he imagined. Like, oh my God, this is like the grossest being I've ever interacted with. I'm very much so like turned off now by this whole target, and yeah, the vibe here feels very consensual, very much so him taking advantage of her and all of the ugly in between.
It's loud sounds coming from this secondary subject, and the primary subject can hear these loud sounds. The primary subject is forcing the secondary subject to do sexual acts, and it's not consensual. It's like the secondary subject is being attacked by objects that are like forced upon her or in her. I don't want to think about this anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zeus was nothing more than a very sick criminal. Think of him as an extraterrestrial version of a Nazi Gestapo leader. He was someone who was vested with the authority to run this planet, and he saw the prisoners not as real people, but as playthings, and he could do whatever he wanted with them, with no repercussion towards himself. He tortured and killed people when they upset him, and he raped young people to satisfy his twisted sexual appetite. We at Farsight are still investigating how and why Earth was set up as a prison planet. But one thing is clear. As far as Zeus is concerned, he is the one who should be in prison. We have yet to see if he will ever be held accountable for his actions. I am sure there will be some who argue that lots of bad things were done in the past and we should let bygones be bygones. start all over. Sure, mistakes were made, but we're good now, right? As I have said in the past, I am certain that the galaxy is watching what happens on Earth closely. I am certain that many out there are worried about what will happen when the prison system that they set up on this planet eventually breaks down, and humans voyage back out to the planets that banished them. Out there must be very afraid of us, and Zeus must be terrified of us. We are the ones that the extraterrestrials never understood. We are the ones who they thought would never return. And soon, we will be the ones who will venture back out into this very troubled galaxy. We need to start thinking now about what we will do when that time comes. Make no mistake about it, Zeus-type criminals are undoubtedly still around today. They are probably doing their best to keep humanity off balance, trying to prevent Earth humans from asserting their true nature. They are probably able to influence or perhaps even control a great many human leaders. But in the end, the oppressors must fail.